By the way, I want to be clear again that I resent that I have to do video topics on religion, supernatural beliefs. I resent that because for me it was in my 20s that I already went past that type of nonsense and was kind of tired of those kind of debates. And yet today our species is not at all past that. In fact, it might be regressing to the worst parts of that. So it's annoying, but as the Doctor of Humanics trying to explain his own theory on HSD and how beliefs that are not reality based and a pursuit that is not lifelong learner, including learning the skill sets we need to be challenged on our beliefs, right? Because a scientist is not a good scientist if his ego can't handle somebody disagreeing with him more than, once a year or something, right? So it's upsetting I still have to do this nonsense, but I'll show you a bit more of it.
What is it?
It's Ptolemy system.
It is. Did you make this?
Earth.
So I really like the props, that they used back then, or to try to simulate certain things so that conceptually your students or yourself, when you're trying to expand solutions on a problem, such as astronomy. And of course, back then they're pretty devolved with astronomy, except they're the best, And you guys don't want to admit this, but one of the ways that we are not advanced as a species is, that we have had for too long and still have religious supernatural beliefs, right? It prevents us from learning or fully self-actualizing at what our brain is capable of, even on average, not even a genius level, but on average. To become an average human, we should have already been beyond this nonsense, except this is what happens today. So again, I'm very clear with people. I say, hey, I'm not a genius. I barely succeeded in becoming an average Homo sapien. It's the rest that is very, very devolved. And what my theory has discovered is an explanation why it is devolving. What she doesn't get about the human condition is that there are people with different beliefs in her classroom, and this guy has different status too as a slave. And she might understand more than average, although being wrong, to what we know today by a lot about astronomy is she's an expert in it, but she's also an expert in wanting to not give up that that's the final answer, right? There's still things that don't totally add up. So in a way, she's a great teacher. She's one of the greats, and she was very much respected. So that's, if you do research about her, who she represents as a character, it is okay. Well, I'll show you more after this. But what she represents is where there's no debate on whoever writes potential history, which is hard to find on her. She was only 20 years old or so, possibly, when she died. And spoiler alert. And but she also had achieved so much more intelligence and potential to keep growing it as a lifelong learner. But she didn't understand things that she hadn't lived through yet, like the hatred that comes from tribe versus tribe of religions, let's say, religious beliefs that differ. And sometimes they differ so little, and sometimes it's assumed that they differ. And it's so inconsequential that it's ridiculous to have arguments about it. And the other thing I wanted to say is, can you imagine if in that classroom she had enough respect to say, check your supernatural beliefs or magical beliefs at the door. And if I see anybody, because it's an elite school there, if I see anybody bring in their own supernatural belief that is not natural philosophy, which is science, I guess, that they're doing there, is you're out of the class, right? So much less progress in understanding ourselves, the planet we live on, and the universe that we're a part of, and the forces that formed it and continue to form it, and how it's ever changing. You can't have a final answer for a universe that is still evolving. And the proof that the universe is not frozen, in its rules, in its movements, in its ability to create more emergence phenomenon is all over the place. But again, we're stuck in no, God would have done it this way or God would have done it this way. And in fact, it limited Einstein himself to have those types of limited thoughts. And of course, the more you're known, the more you're popular, the more you get into religions or are influenced positively or negatively by cultures that are religious, the more that seeps in and contaminates your ability to be a thinker, a real thinker at human levels.